Well, I'm sure you've already seen that Nintendo Direct by now, and I just wanted to have a bit of a talk, maybe a bit of a rant actually about it. So, Nintendo were top of their game back in the 80s and early 90s. They could command third parties to release games on their system only. They charged quite a lot of money for their games, but you always knew when you were getting a Nintendo game, you were always in for a good time. Nintendo did struggle after this against Sony and Microsoft for a while. It wasn't until the Wii and the DS where people started to get back into Nintendo quite a bit. There were some amazing games released on those systems. However, after the Wii, we got the Wii U. That did struggle. We got the Nintendo 3DS as well, which was very overpriced at the time. Nintendo did drop the price pretty quick after launch, but we did get a lot of great games on the system. Nintendo did struggle with the Wii U. They did a lot of deals though. I remember picking up Wind Waker for free if I bought Mario Kart, which I always thought was a great deal to be fair. And then we got the Switch come out, and even though it was quite high priced, it was a great console. We had Breath of the Wild, did amazing. There were a lot of games that reflected their prices, so the shorter games or some of the remakes were a little bit cheaper. The Switch 2 got released recently too. Admittedly, it's quite expensive, but I personally feel it's worth it for the hardware that you get with it. And we've had some good games so far. My point is, when Nintendo's not doing that great, they become a little bit more lenient with their prices. But going back to that Direct, I'm just a little bit concerned of the direction Nintendo is going. There was a lot of talk of DLC. Some of the DLC, like Donkey Kong Bonanza, from what I understand now, is certainly not worth $20. It really appears to be post-game content that should have been in the game at launch. But there's not really much substance to it. Compare that to, say, Silksong, which is the same price, will take you probably 50 hours to complete. It just doesn't seem to match up price-wise. They probably had similar sized teams doing the DLC for Donkey Kong Bonanza as well as Hollow Knight Silksong. We're getting a lot of DLC for future games. Admittedly, you don't have to buy that DLC at the end of the day. I'm just starting to feel the pricing for the DLC is quite expensive for what you get in comparison for what you're paying for the game in the first place. I always thought the reason Mario Kart World was priced so much is because DLC would be coming for it for free basically. But I am worried now for the future that we're going to have to start paying $20 per track pack in the future if we actually do get some DLC announced at some point. Nintendo did show off that we're getting a Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 remaster. My issue with this is the pricing. It's pretty much the same price as a brand new game. We're talking remasters here that are nearly 20 years old originally. We got the Mario 3D All-Star Collection 5 years ago for the Switch. That included Mario 64, Mario Sunshine and Mario Galaxy, and that was priced pretty reasonably. £50 I believe I paid for that. I thought that wasn't a bad deal. I still felt at the time it was a little overpriced considering there wasn't really any major changes to these games. Whereas this Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 remaster just feels like they've done a resolution update, slapped in the story mode into the second game, and are charging full price. I mean, the same price for a brand new game that's been in development for years, in comparison to a port or remaster that probably only took a few months to do. I mean, thankfully you can buy Mario Galaxy 2 separate if you want to, but that still is £40, which again is the same price as a Switch game. And again, going back to the Wii U, you could actually go onto the shop and purchase Mario Galaxy 2 for, like here, $10, which sounds about right to me for an older game. Admittedly, it hadn't had any major updates, but still. And not only that, there was a lot of Amiibos. I also found it crazy Nintendo were charging £40 for the Kirby Air Rider Amiibo. Back when the Amiibos launched, they were £10 each, and over the years they've slowly risen. I loved the Amiibos initially. They were great little figures that you could just buy on the whim, you know. But now they've become overpriced, and they're not really something that you would want to collect. I recently bought the Donkey Kong Bonanza Amiibo. Again, it was a little overpriced, about £30, but I love the game. I thought it would be a nice addition to the collection. Maybe I am the problem for paying this much for an Amiibo, but it is a bit of a slap in the face to the collectors of Amiibo. because these prices are extreme. Paying £40 for a plastic Amiibo, or put that money towards a game that's taken years to produce, you're going to get 50 hours of gameplay out of it. It just doesn't feel like value for money. And I kind of feel Nintendo have realised that Nintendo fans don't really care about that. They just want to buy this because it might be worth something in the future. Nintendo did also show off the Virtual Boy accessory. So basically you can buy this plastic headset which you can slot your Switch into. Now this headset costs about £70, $100 I noticed it costing. Again, this felt very overpriced considering we could purchase the NES Mini, Super Nintendo Mini a few years ago for less money. We're paying a lot more for a piece of plastic that you also need a Nintendo Switch to put into. And not only that, you can only play these games using the accessory. You can't play the games on the Nintendo Switch on their own. You also have to be signed up to the most expensive membership tier to access the Virtual Boy games. So if you decide to stop paying for the membership eventually, or if the service disappears from NSO, you're effectively going to end up with a useless piece of plastic you can't use anymore. While we're talking about the Virtual Boy, I just want to say there is a couple of good games on the system. I do think Wario Land is a great game. It's a shame it's never been re-released over the years. But the Virtual Boy is really something that you would probably want to just play for a little bit just to satisfy curiosity. I played the Virtual Boy a few times. I played a lot of the games. I don't really recommend spending that much money unless you really want to add it to your collection as well. I remember last year Nintendo released the Alamo, and I kind of think this was a testing phase for seeing what Nintendo fans would purchase. This was an interactive clock which costs just under £100. It displays Nintendo games on the screen and it can play music when it detects motion, so it gets you up in the morning and it's supposed to help with your well-being. But I did find this a very funny thing to release, especially for the price. I think this Alamo did really well and Nintendo are running on this. We're also getting one of the talking flowers from Mario Wonder. I don't know what the price is on that. At the end of the day, I've really not got an issue with these accessories because that's down to your choice whether you want to buy them. They are for collectors at the end of the day. It's not like other companies haven't released very expensive models or special edition games where you can pay extra for the model included. My main issue really at the minute is the cost of the DLC and what you get for your money in comparison to the price of the rest of the game. And the fact some of these remasters are costing a lot of money. As if games aren't themselves already getting too expensive, to be expected to pay so much more for DLC on top just feels a little bit too greedy to me. So yeah, I am just concerned with the future of Nintendo. I do worry if people are going to stop buying so many games because having to pay £60 for a tennis game, I just don't think it's going to sell as well as it did before. I don't know, I just wanted to rant, guys. Let me know, what do you think? Do you have no issue for the costs that Nintendo are starting to charge for DLC, remasters, amiibos and accessories? Do you think the Virtual Boy was a little bit too far? I want to hear your comments down below. Thanks for watching.